Good morning. What up, Dan and Amy? And in for Amy this morning is Kristen McQuarrie, Chicago Tribune editorial board member. And we're taking your calls and texts all morning about who should play Dick Cheney in the Dick Cheney movie. Christian Bale, who's a great actor, been slated to play Cheney in the biopic on the former vice president. I will take as acceptable answers so far Albert Brooks, Albert Finney, Richard Dreyfuss. Interesting. I could kind of see it. Kenneth Branagh, great Shakespearean actor. Denzel Washington, which was my selection, to be a little bit counterintuitive, add a little bit more energy to the Cheney character. I obviously the obvious answer would be George C. Scott, but he is passed on, so he cannot do the role.
I would say like a James Brolin, William Dafoe, Michael Douglas.
Josh Brolin, because his father can't act.
Oh,
Josh can.
Oh, we're looking for good actors.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Well, I prefer a good actor, wouldn't you?
How about William H. Macy in the voice of Jerry Lundegaard during the whole thing? No, it doesn't work.
That's interesting. And then Jennifer Lawrence to play Lynn Cheney.
Sure.
Of course.
Well, why not?
All right.
Jerry Lundegaard. We had a deal, Jerry.
We'll get Bret Baier's opinion on this, too, as a noted movie critic. But before we do that, we need to hear from the president on a serious matter, more serious matter. And that, of course, is the release of the mother of all bombs on the Afghan-Pakistani border that took out 36 ISIS terrorists yesterday. Trump explaining why he authorized what was authorized.
What I do is I authorize my military. We have the greatest military in the world, and they've done a job as usual. So we have given them total authorization, and that's what they're doing. And frankly, that's why they've been so successful lately. If you look at what's happened over the last 8 weeks and compare that really to what's happened over the last 8 years, you'll see there's a tremendous difference, So we have incredible leaders in the military, and we have incredible military, and we are very proud of them. And this was another very, very successful mission.
And yesterday on Special Report, which I watch religiously, and you should too, Charles Krauthammer opined on this and Trump's seeming reversal of position on NATO, on Syria, now on Afghanistan, although this is less of any discernible reversal, but his kind of reversal in posture from America first to America's national interest being more broad, which is the traditional posture of a United States president.
And the reason it's a radical departure is because in the inaugural address, he defines national interest very narrowly. And here what we are back to is the traditional American understanding of national interest as a broad definition, going all the way back to Harry Truman, in which we define our interest as worldwide. Otherwise, well, what is Syria to us?
For more on this, we're pleased to be joined by the aforesaid Bret Baier, the anchor of Special Report, Monday to Friday, 5 p.m. Chicago time. Bret, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Sure. Good morning. I think Richard Dreyfuss.
You think Richard Dreyfuss?
He's done it before.
Yeah.
He's done it before. Didn't he do it in W? Wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah.
All right. That's all right. Good morning.
Is Richard Dreyfuss? You got anybody else that you're kicking around? I'm just trying to put this cast together.
Great Santini.
Yes. I'm blanking. What about Christopher Walken?
What's his name?
Christopher Walken would be good. What about Dennis Quaid?
Well, Dennis Quaid played W.
I don't know, Dennis Quaid.
All right. I mean, who's the?
I'll have to keep thinking.
All right, Bret, text us in your later thoughts on this, will you? We appreciate
I'm
that.
sure he has nothing else to do, Dan.
But on the larger matter, what about what Charles Krauthammer said yesterday on your program and this reversal of sorts? Do you see this as a real reversal in the president's thinking, or is this more just kind of dealing in a measured way with a reality on the ground that he, hadn't contemplated, certainly hadn't confronted until he was in the office?
Listen, clearly it's different than candidate Trump talked about on the trail. Clearly it's different than the inaugural address and the message overall. But it is not putting troops on the ground in great numbers in places around the world. It is not, building up a country. It is a targeted strategic strike. And frankly, I think it is the evolution of Donald Trump as president. He is not ideological. He is practical. He is also somebody who, in business and I think in life, is looking for W's. He's looking for wins. And he turned to Paul Ryan and said, I want to win. He didn't get a win. He turned to the Pentagon and said, I want wins. And they said, sir, we've got a whole list of wins we can give you in a heartbeat. And here's 59 Tomahawk cruise missiles, and here's the mother of all bombs. And, he frankly looks strong. And for him, that is a win, especially when you're negotiating with North Korea and standing down China.
I wondered what your impressions were of Tillerson this week, since he was kind of he was panned in the press early on as disappearing into the cabinet. He wasn't out front enough, and here he is sitting next to the Russian ambassador, really going at each other in front of live cameras. What do you think of his role so far for someone who is not very experienced with diplomacy?
Well, he is experienced with diplomacy in his own way. I mean, he ran a company that had the GDP of a small country, and so he has a large Rolodex and has a lot of connections around the world. So in essence, that is diplomacy on a business sense. I think that Tillerson is somebody who wanted to feel out where the policy was. He didn't want to get out in front and then get shot in the back by some tweet at 6:30 in the morning that was not what he was talking about. So I think he's feeling his sea legs, and I think that news conference with Lavrov was a pretty stern example of a strong Secretary of State who is speaking like his president.
By the way, great Santini, Robert Duvall, which would be a great choice for Dick Cheney as well as for Rexon. Although I'm thinking, I said yesterday, I think Rexon could reprise Sean Connery's role in Russia House. Certainly if you could have Gary Oldman reprise Alec Guinness's role in Smiley in Ticker Taker Soldier Spy as George Smiley. You see what I'm saying there? Sorry to get this off track.
James Brolin could be more Rex Tillerson, even though it might be a bad acting job.
Yeah, yes,
right.
It's a fair point.
They look enough alike.
Well, and speaking of Rexon, the Russian patsy narrative, that's by the boards, isn't it? Because it wasn't just the exchange with Lavrov. It was coming out of a 2-hour meeting with Putin and him saying that our relationship with Russia is at a low point. And that's not a good thing, and that needs to be improved. And here are some of the areas where we agree, at least in terms of goal. And here are some of the challenges we face. This is not a guy being manipulated by Putin, it doesn't seem to me.
Well, that is the difference. Half of the Democratic Party is still saying that Donald Trump is a puppet of Vladimir Putin, and they're still saying overly aggressive and going to start World War III with Russia. So, you can't have it both ways. And I think that you're right. I think that the narrative has changed a bit in the wake of the past week and a half.
What has been of late? I haven't heard as much media bashing from Trump or the administration, but maybe I missed something. Do you get the sense that is sort of dying down, and that the whining from reporters that they're not getting access, that in fact they are, and we're getting daily briefings from Sean Spicer? We had this the sit down with Tillerson. Is the whole media versus Trump administration narrative changing?
Well, we are always going to whine about something, about access or something. But you're right. I think they're interacting more, number one. Number two, I think the influence and sphere of influence of Steve Bannon is diminishing in reality. And, he was one of the big proponents of slam the media. That was part of take down the establishment, was take down the establishment media. And I think they're getting a different sense of how to be president as be candidate.
And what about that diminished role of Steve Bannon and what that may portend? You have some people that are, more of the America First disposition that Trump outlined in his inaugural speech, and they see him potentially giving over to what is derisively called the bipartisan war party inside the Beltway. Are those legitimate concerns?
Well, I think he is changing. I think Steve Bannon, if I were Steve Bannon, I'd be worried that I might not have a job soon, because I think there is the shift has happened, and I think the president is starting to realize that yes, you have to be a bull in the china shop to shake things up in Washington, but eventually you have to put some china on the counter. I mean, eventually you have to build up the shop again and figure out how to make it work. And they are trying to figure that out now. I think Steve Bannon is, I don't know if he's going to have a job, but if he does, it'll be diminished in his sphere of influence.
He is Bret Baier, the influential Bret Baier, anchor of Special Report, weekdays 5 p.m. Chicago time on Fox. He's also the author of the new book about the Eisenhower administration, 3 Days in January. Bret, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Have a great weekend.
Happy Easter. Yep, take care. And he joined us on the Turnkey.Pro answer line.